today or tomorrow. So, all right. All right, so thanks for being with us here today. We are here today for a GWN series access point training webinar. We will talk in the introduction about our GWN 7000 router, but we will primarily today be focusing on our access points. If you are interested in a full training on the router, the reason why we don't do the router training here today is because it could on its own probably last as long as this webinar. So you can join us tomorrow afternoon at the same time for that. I was doing that, just in case you were curious. I saw the look in your face. Oh, okay. No, just the access points today. So yeah, let's get started. As I mentioned, if you are interested in more of a technical training on the router, our GWN 7000, which you see here on the screen, join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock. You can sign up for that at grandstream.com/training center. All right, so the GWN series of access points and routers was initially launched by us, we'll say October of last year, so October of 2016. And this is another major expansion of Grandstream. You've seen, frankly, a lot of them over the years as we continue to go down the route of being a full and complete communication solutions provider. You know, one of the great things about Grandstream is that we're really one of the only companies in the world that manufactures the wide range of unified communication devices that we do, allowing you to set up and install entire networks just under the Grandstream brand. And this GWN series is one of the biggest expansions of that solution mission that we were on in the company's history. You see the 3 current products that we have on the market in this series right now. I'm going to tell you about one that is currently being beta tested, but in the long run, within the next year or so, there will be an even larger GWN series. We will continue to add onto it with a combination of high-end, mid-range, and low-end access point and routers. So we're just getting going with some of these devices, and as I'll tell you about, we offer some great features, some great functionalities on these devices that is really, we believe, going to revolutionize the Wi-Fi marketplace. We're making Wi-Fi easier and more secure than ever before, and I'll explain that to you in a little bit. So the 3 current models we have that are out and available for purchase through our distribution channels are here on the slide. GWN 7610 access point, GWN 7600 access point, and the GWN 7000 router. Just to give you a little bit more information on that, the GWN 7610, this was the first the first access point that we released in the GWN series. It's a mid-range wireless access point, and one thing that I'd like to touch on when I kind of describe, you know, an access point as being mid-range or high-end, because it's something that I learned a couple of months ago as well, is that generally when you're talking about access points and you're categorizing them as high-end, mid-range, low-end, etc., that is entirely based on the speed that the access point supports. And this device supports 1.75 gigabits per second. You'll see our 7600 will support 1.27 gigabits per second, which makes the 7610 a little bit more of a higher-end access point than the 7600, though the 7600 actually will give you more client support, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the 7610 here, 250 clients, 175 gigs per second, 175 meter coverage range, which is almost 2 football or soccer fields in any direction from the device. All of our access points are omnidirectional, which means that you know, they basically are sending that signal 175 meters. The range is in any direction. Draw a straight line in any direction from the access point, and that's your range. Full dual band support, advanced Wi-Fi security features, which we'll talk about, dual band, obviously. And one of the best things about all of our devices, which I will explain more in detail in a couple of minutes, is that embedded controller, which allows any of our access points or any of our routers to basically auto-discover, set up, provision, and manage entire networks of other access points, and we'll come back to that. So that's the 7610, and then we move over to the 7600. Again, a little bit slower speeds than the 7610, but you're going to get more client support. So if it's more important to you to support a lot of different clients than it is to offer really fast Wi-Fi speeds, 7600 is for you. If you're looking for the speeds, you want the 7610. It says 175 meter coverage range for this device. I believe it's actually 165 meters, so it's a little bit shorter than the 7610. And then all of the same great security provisioning, embedded controller features that we talked about, dual band. We'll come back and talk about that embedded controller in a little bit. And one thing to kind of tease something here for you, the next device that you're going to see, the next access point that we're going to release in the GWN series is our first ever outdoor long-range Wi-Fi access point. It's going to be called the GWN 76LR. The LR just simply stands for long range. It's an IP66 certified weatherproof access point, certified for use certified for use outdoors in pretty much any weather condition, and it has been tested to operate in temperatures from negative 30 degrees Celsius all the way up to 60 degrees Celsius. Gives you a Wi-Fi coverage range of 275 meters, so off the top of my head, I believe that's almost 3 football fields or almost 3 soccer fields in any direction from this device, 1.27 gigs per second, and as we mentioned, it can support up to 450 clients, so it gives you a little bit more client support there. So that is currently being tested by our beta club. You can look for that to be released, I would guess, probably in the August or early September timeframe. So those are the 2 access points that are available for purchase now, in addition to the device you see here, the long-range outdoor access point, which we will release soon. The other device that we have, and obviously, you know, with pretty much most of the time with a Wi-Fi access point, you're going to need a router, or even if you don't need it for your access points, you're going to need a router to set up and manage a wired network for any business, in addition to any wireless networks. And here we have the GWN 7000, the multi-WAN gigabit VPN router. Gives you the ability to set up, manage, and provision from this one central location, from just this device up to 500 Grandstream Wi-Fi access points. Again, I will explain the embedded provisioning controller in a couple of moments. Gives you 7 gigabit ports that has VPN speeds built into it, pretty much support for all of the major VPN flavors, speeds up to 300 megabytes per second, gives you 4G or 3G, 4G LTE backup, gives you the ability to integrate with third-party wireless file sharing or printer services. 1 million packets per second routing. It is able to support up to 10 gigabits per second in total speed, and gives you a centralized web user interface to centrally monitor and provision the entire network, which, as I will explain, also is a functionality of our access points, and that's something pretty unique that we offer. Built-in firewall, I mentioned the multi-WAN, also mentioned the VPN, so nothing too new that we haven't talked about there. Just to throw this slide up, so you see some of any other specs that we didn't talk about that are here. Gives you some more information on the firewall, supports NAT, DMZ, port forwarding, SPI, UPnP, 2 USB ports, and that's how you would integrate the wireless file sharing or the 3G, 4G LTE backup or your wireless printer services. Yeah, so that is the router. And again, we will cover the router in a lot more detail, and we will focus on the router in the technical training tomorrow. You can join us at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, which will give you the ability, actually, I believe it's Eastern Daylight Savings Time now. So EDT, not EST, if you're not here in the United States, to convert it to your local time zone. You can sign up for that at grandstream.com/training center and just look for the GWN series training webinars section. All right, so just to get back and to kind of wrap up our talk here about the access points, which we're obviously focusing on today, here on these slides we're talking about the 2 main access points that are available for purchase now. The things that really stand out about these devices, the range that they offer. Ss Ids, that's something we haven't talked about. All of our access points, every single one, every GWN series access point gives you the ability to support up to 16 Ss Ids on each access point. An Ss Id is just a wireless network. So basically you can build and offer up to 16 different wireless networks excuse me, on every Grandstream access point. Gives you a lot of customization, a lot of flexibility, ability to offer customized networks for certain departments, for certain teams, just a lot of flexibility moving forward with that device. We talked about the network speeds, the controllerless management. Again, To begin to introduce that, I'm going to talk about that more on a slide coming up. With all of our access points, and even with the routers, there's no need for a separate controller software or hardware, which is what most other manufacturers require, that you have to go purchase or use a separate piece of hardware or software known as a controller to set up and manage your entire network. You have to integrate that controller with each access point in order to manage each access point. We've taken the entire functionality of that device, of that controller, and we built it into the web user interface for every GWN product, or routers and access points, which means that you can use any GWN product to set up and manage all the devices on your network from one central location. And again, we'll come back to that. Just to further compare or show you the two devices next to each other, again, you're going to get faster speeds from the 7610 up to 1.75 gigs per second versus the 7600, which will give you 1.27 gigs. However, the concurrent client support on the 7600 gives you about 200 more clients that you can support versus the 7610. So again, if you're looking, the most important thing to you is to support a lot of different Wi-Fi clients. You want the 7600. If it's most important to offer fast speeds, you want the 7610. Anything else that I should mention here on the screen? We talked about the range, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Again, just to further differentiate models, actually we pretty much talked about this. Here's the speeds I was looking for. Same great Wi-Fi security across all of our access points now and in the future. Built-in QoS, which is definitely something worth mentioning as well. And the devices are able to do offer you self-power adaptation upon usage or when the device detects PoE or PoE+. I'll just cover this real quickly. In today's day and age, it's super important with your access points to be able to support dual band networks. Dual band frequencies within access points or routers is something that's been new within the last couple of years, but it seems to be mostly pretty common for use now. So this slide here shows you 802.11 standards. This is just to show you that our device is essentially backwards compatible to support all of the older Wi-Fi frequencies, or excuse me, Wi-Fi standards that are out there. In case you have older access points or older routers, our access points and our routers will be able to work with those if they're running an older standard. The other thing that we like to support, or like to mention here, and you kind of see it throughout, is we offer dual band. You saw this on a couple of slides earlier. So every access point has the ability to offer Wi-Fi signals at the 5 gigahertz band and the 2.4 gigahertz band. 2.4 is the traditional band. The issue there is that a lot of other wireless technologies such as Bluetooth are going to, or any other Wi-Fi signal is going to run on that same band, whereas if you move up to 5 gigahertz, you're going to generally get a faster connection because you're going to have less interference. And we support both of those bands in addition to all of those standards. So I guess the best way to introduce this is to tell you about a stat that I read this morning. According to, honestly, I forget exactly what I was reading. I can get it to you and mention it later on here in today's webinar. But the stat was that 25% of Wi-Fi networks in the year 2017 still do not offer Wi-Fi encryption, which is mind-boggling to me. And so what we have is we support and we have built in basically the 6 most powerful and most commonly used, most powerful is the right way to describe it, Wi-Fi security encryption technologies. 6 different things that you can use, and Fareed might be talking about this a little bit later, and you can kind of read through everything here, even encryption technology that's used by banks, governments, financial institutions required by the government is built into our devices. You can go compare these security encryptions that we offer on all of our access points to what some of our competitors offer, and you'll kind of probably be surprised to see that very few of them are going to offer all 6 of these that we offer. So to take that a little bit further, we have made Wi-Fi security, we have instituted a variety of really innovative high-end Wi-Fi security protocols into our GWN series access points. I'm going to describe them for you real quickly here. We could frankly have a whole nother webinar just to talk about the 3 features on here. But these are things that we identified from testing other manufacturers' access points and identifying major security holes. This is what we took from that, or what we learned from that, and what we have instituted in our own devices. So I'm actually going to start from the bottom here. The random default password per device just means that every Grandstream GWN series device has a completely different random default password. So the password that you're going to initially use to log into the device when you get it. Might sound basic, right? Most other manufacturers build a predictable password or password pattern or password template, and they use that as their default password for every device, meaning that if basically you can predict what the password's going to be. It's sometimes the MAC address, sometimes the serial number, sometimes it's just the brand name, sometimes it's the model number. And what that means is that a hacker or anyone with malicious intent can very easily predict what that password is going to be. They can figure out when you initially add it to your network, and they can get into it as soon as you set it up. You can hack an entire network in 2 seconds. Whereas with our devices, every single device has a completely different, random, I guess the right word is unique default password. So they're never predictable. Even all the same access points you get in the same order will have completely different random default passwords. Just makes it more difficult to hack into. And then we get into a unique security certificate per device. Whenever an access point and a Wi-Fi client form a connection, the security certificate is extended between the 2 devices to create that secure connection. A lot of other manufacturers are going to use the same exact security certificate on each access point, and some of them are going to use the same exact security certificate on all of their access points, meaning that every device connected to a specific access point from another manufacturer will have the same security certificate, and potentially every access point that manufacturer makes gives out the same security certificates, meaning that if somebody is able to get into one of the devices on the network or get through the security certificate once, they can access your entire network, and they can potentially access networks running on the same access points anywhere else in the world, just by identifying that that security certificate. Our devices offer completely different, unique security certificates on every access point and every client. So every one of our access points has a completely different, unique set of security certificates, and every Wi-Fi client that connects to our access points is given a completely unique security certificate. So every device, every access point has different security certificates. If you're able to get into one, that basically means that that's all you can get into. You can't get into the network past there. To wrap up this slide, the anti-hacking security critical data and control lockdown, basically this is protection of the firmware and the Wi-Fi configuration of the devices. The devices have numerous layers of software and hardware, bless you, no worries, numerous layers of software and hardware that work in tangent to basically facilitate your Wi-Fi network. We have built digital signatures into each one of those layers. Those digital signatures constantly monitor that own layer in addition to every other layer. So basically, if one of those layers senses anything is off on any of the other layers, it will completely prevent and block access to the nitty-gritty or to the back end of the system. It will lock down your network settings, it will lock down the firmware of your device, and it will lock down the data on those devices. Kind of a long-winded explanation of those features, but I always like to go through them because they're fairly uncommon within Wi-Fi access points. All right, so now a couple of more slides from me, and then we will begin to turn it over to Fareed. We talked about controllerless management, or the embedded provisioning controller, a lot throughout. So this applies both to our access points and our routers. The example you see on the right is traditionally how Wi-Fi installation and management is covered. You have a controller that's either a separate piece of hardware or software, usually has to be purchased in addition to all your devices, that you have to use to basically go to each access point and to set up each access point individually. You literally have to touch each one individually and access each one and set each one up. What we have done is we have built in the provisioning and management server into the web user interface of all of our access points and all of our routers, meaning that any Grandstream access point and any Grandstream router, but obviously here we're talking about access points, can be used to set up, provision, and manage entire networks. I can take one Grandstream access point and use it to set up and manage either 30 or 50 other Grandstream Wi-Fi access points, depending on which I'm using. If I'm using the controller in the router, that gives you the ability to manage and control up to 500 Grandstream access points. This is from one central location. You can control every single access point from just the one centralized controller within the user interface of an access point or a router. Allows you to set up, manage entire networks from one central location. You don't need a controller or anything else. It is all just done from an access point or for a router, which again, the other great thing about this is it gives you that advanced centralized control of this. The screenshot you see here is actually from a GWN 7000 router, but it gives you the ability to control the device and your network centrally, whether you're using an access point or a router. Just to mention it, just because we didn't earlier, full support for site-to-site VPN tunnels using our routers, build VPN connections from the GWN 7000 to another 7000, and then our access points will be able to tap into those and offer those VPN connections. And we do support pretty much all the major VPN flavors, including OpenVPN. All right, just to wrap my introduction up real here, I got 3 more slides just to kind of wrap up my introduction and show you actually how some of this stuff is used and deployed before we move into the training part. Kind of 3 different examples on all ends of the spectrum. Here we have a small office. The advantage here and the general deployment here is that you're going to offer the same Ss Ids or the same network and the same access credentials across all your access points. You can have multiple access points covering the whole network or your whole office, and that will share a common network or group of networks and access credentials, so that when somebody moves from one side of the office to another or out of range from one access point and into range for the other, they do not have to change, relog in. It will just automatically switch over to the new access point without having to be relogged in or whatnot. Basically just ensures that everywhere you go in the office you have a connection and don't have to switch networks. Multi-floor office. Here we get into the deployment of having many different access points with many different Ss Ids. For larger company, multi-floor offices gives you the ability to offer specialized or basically dedicated networks for each department, for each floor, for visitors. To build networks depending on where the access point is, while also potentially building in some common networks on each access point so that when somebody moves from one floor to the next, if they're on the sales team, maybe they have access to the sales network on every floor, for example, but then you also have dedicated networks being offered by those access points for your visitors in the lobby, for your support team, for your marketing team, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third example here is the branch office, and here we're talking about VPN, creating a VPN connection between and tunneling it between 2 of our GWN 7000 routers and then extending that out to the access points in each location. Obviously, VPN just gives you the ability to share common networks, network resources, etc. between 2 different physical locations. All right, so that went a couple of moments longer than I was expecting it to, but now we will move on to the technical training of today's webinar, where Fareed will actually show you how to set up, manage, and use all the great features of these devices. So bear with us here for a second as we turn over the presentation to Fareed. You might see it pop back on screen here. There you go. How's everybody doing?
Well, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this technical webinar for the GWN access points. So like Phil mentioned, we will talk about configuring only the APs today, and tomorrow we will move on. We will have another webinar about the router, and we will show you the way you can control these access points in case you don't have a Grandstream router. You can still use one of the access points as the controller. So let's switch to the presentation mode here. And here you go. I gotta share my screens, duplicate them.
That happens to me all the time.
Display settings. Just bear with us for a second. And screens are duplicated. Let me open my interface here. Alright, so I'm already in one of the access points that I have here in the local network. Let me just exit out of it. So let me log back in. The first time you log in with this latest firmware with admin, which is default, the GWN will ask you to change the default password from admin to something stronger. So I just changed it to something more secure, and here I am in one of my GWN 7610s. That's the 3x3 router access point. Let me exit out of the wizard, and you will notice here that the controller interface is exactly the same as the router that I have open here. So it's the same exact interface. So we're not talking about the GWN 7000 router today, but we'll leave it for tomorrow's presentation. So let's exit out of the router and keep the APs. As you can see, this is a GWN 7610. It's a 3x3 router. Latest firmware that we have posted on the website that I'm running here. There's a beta firmware that you can try on your spare device if you have a spare access point. Do not put it in production yet. And what you can gather from the overview panel, the dashboard, is I have discovered 2 APs, but I only have one online, which is the master that I just accessed, which is this GWN 7610 itself. So the first access point that you access in the network becomes the master, and then any other discovered and added access points will work as slaves. Anticipating, some questions. If the master fails, can it elect another master? No, it will not elect another master, at least on this firmware, but the slaves should be able to function on their own. Once you add, let's say here I have access points, I will go and discover. So this is the GWN that I am on right now. I can look for other access points in the network. I can see 2 of them here. See that the first one is grayed out. I'm not able to link it to this one, and this could be due to so many reasons. And the one I can think of right now is this one is actually a master for another network that's independent from this network. So the second you access a GWN via web UI, it becomes the master. It enables the controller, so you cannot add it by another access point. So it can only be, when it's a master, it cannot be a slave to another access point. However, I see another GWN 7600, which is the smaller model, the 2x2 Wave 2 access point, that's actually ready to be added to this network, ready to be paired as a slave to my access point. So I just wanted to point out that I accessed this GWN using the IP, which I got from Advanced IP Scanner. There is another method when you have the MAC address of the device. We can go look for it, and then there is a string that you can, instead of looking for the IP of the GWN, you can just type in HTTPS and then the MAC.local. So this is the format. So if I get the MAC address of this access point, so instead of going and look for it in the network, if you don't have time, if you're in a rush, for whatever reason, you just get the MAC from the sticker on the back of the AP, and then enter it there, and you should be able to get into the web interface. Just a small trick that I like to mention in the presentations that my may or may not make your life easier during the install. Back to the overview. So I showed you why it displays 2 discovered APs, 1 online, which is itself. I have no clients connected wirelessly to this network, to this access points. I have not enabled it yet. And then it shows you the access point channel distribution for the 2.4 gig, so it's using channel 1, and then the 5 gig, it's using channel 36. So you've got 2 bands. And then here, once you have APs connected, you know, it shows you the status, the names and stuff. Same thing for the clients connected wirelessly. It shows you the name, the MAC address of the client, and then the download and upload packets real time. And then the critical as well as major and normal notifications from the system, from the access points. So I'm trying to the best way to, and the easiest way to just show you how you can get around this web interface, but it's obviously already clear. If this is my master, I can go ahead and add, just search for the APs and just hit add them. But before we do that, let's just show the network the way it is right now, and then once we add something to it, we will look for the new stuff that were brought by adding another access point, and what can we do with that. So if you are planning on using Grandstream devices, Grandstream networking devices, try to get used to this network group logic, so you can, when you get to the router tomorrow, you will see that you can assign a VLAN to a network group. You can create a firewall rule to a network group, so everything, you can have a network group with its own Wi-Fi network, so everything works with network groups. So that's how you divide your network, and you can assign, like I said, a firewall rule to a network group. You can put a network group on a certain VLAN. You can assign a QoS to a network group. You can put the network group in DMZ and stuff like that. So everything works with network groups. And as you can see, you have the default group 0. And this, of course, there's only one network group, and the only device we have here is this GWN. So the default Ss ID is GWN, and then the 6 or the 5, the 6 last digits of the MAC address. So let's edit and see what's in this network group. Of course, feel free to change it, name it to whatever you want. So for network 0, group 0, so we have this GWN, which we can change. GWN webinar June 13. Not sure if it will take the slash. So we can hide the SSID. We can choose a different encryption security mode. We can the security mode. This is the encryption key. So we can use a pre-shared key or authentication. Encryption type AES, and then you have your pre-shared key password. We can just put password here. You can display it, and we will talk eventually about the client isolations. So once you have a guest network, we will talk about the client isolations on the guest network. When you add it, you can for now we just focus on the internet. We can just give the internet access for the host on this network. You can't you don't allow them to ping the main network, especially when you create a guest network for your organization or for whatever company. You don't want the guests to be able to ping the host in the main network, but you might as well let them ping the gateway. So you just enter the MAC address of your gateway, which is the router, whatever router you're using here. When we demo this tomorrow, for the MAC address, obviously these access points will be controlled by the router GWN 7000, so we will have to go and look for the MAC address of that GWN and paste it here. Let's just disable client isolations. This is our main network. We don't have any other networks so far. When device membership, so we have to have at least one device, one access point, which is this one we're working on. We only have one network, one access point. And notice that on this latest firmware, we added Wi-Fi scheduling. We can just enable the Wi-Fi scheduling, every business day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., for example. And then the Wi-Fi will be disabled out of this business hours or whatever hours you want to give it. So it may be useful for some people. So that's it. We have one network, one Wi-Fi SSID linked to this network group 0, and device is only one device. Let's save here. That's all we've got. Apply the changes. So this takes some time, to refresh the controller, the network, the interfaces, and then the service will be reloaded. In this case, network service. Sometimes it would take a few seconds. All right. This is where you would create your additional SSIDs. Let's go to the maintenance page and see actually the portal, the captive portal. What is a captive portal? So let's say you install this at a coffee shop that's given free Wi-Fi for customers. So you want to be careful and put a captive portal and put terms and conditions for customers that are hopping onto your Wi-Fi connections, and put a disclaimer that says this is a free internet access. We do not control who logs into it, who connects to it. So you might have hackers there that attack your device or whatever. If you're trying not to share sensitive information, we are not responsible for anything that happens. So you can enable that captive portal right here, and then go upload your captive portal, which is the landing page. So when I connect to this network, I will get a portal that says, that displays a disclaimer, terms and conditions of use, and whoever logs into the network can just agree to the terms and conditions, and then can log into the network. So this is on this firmware. I know it changed a little bit for those of you who have used the beta version, but on this version it's the splash.html that you can just edit here and upload your splash.html that you can use, that you can create using HTML, obviously. I have one right here on my desktop. Let me just find it, just to show you, to give you an idea of what it looks like and how you can build one. It's pretty simple, basic HTML. This is an example of the page that I just built. I put in a disclaimer, just assuming that this will be used in a Grandstream hotspot. So I put a disclaimer, this is a free hotspot provided by Grandstream Networks as a courtesy service. And then we are pleased to, just a little welcome message. We are pleased to provide free high-speed internet for the visitors of the Fenway area where we are located, for those of you who know us. And then kindly read the disclaimers, terms and conditions, and then once the customer agrees here, obviously here it's not on the device, I just opened the file outside the device, so if I click on accept terms and conditions, it's not taking me anywhere. But when you upload it here, the command will be executed, and then it will take you to whatever website you initially typed in when this splash page showed up. So we can open this page just for you to see what's in it. The splash, let's just open it with command line. I've got bash installed on this Windows PC, and then let's get into the desktop, and then vi or vim splash1.html. And here you go. So it's It's really basic HTML. You just need to be a little bit familiar with it. So that's the text. This is the free hotspot and all the, welcome to Grandstream and stuff. And at the bottom you have the form that allow you, to click and then see what it says. I have read the terms and conditions, the disclaimer, and then it will take you to the whatever page that you had initially typed, whatever website you initially typed into the browser. Let's get back to our access point. LEDs. So this is just to LEDs on and off. You can schedule the LEDs. These are just the physical LEDs that you have on the access point, so you can turn them on at nighttime. Let's go and look for other access points and add them to this network. Remember, you can build one network with so many access points, and you can build different networks with one access point. So we can do both, actually. Let's discover our access points again. Like I mentioned, this is not, I can't add this one, it's grayed out, so I need to add this one that's available to me to add as a slave. Here you go. It's being provisioned by the master, which is this one up here, and it should say online when it's ready to be used. Let's give it a few seconds, maybe navigate away and come back. Still provisioning, and you will see that you can, same thing with the router. When we will see this tomorrow, we can upgrade and configure this secondary slave access point. Once it's ready, we can do its firmware upgrade. We can, let's say this one, we can add it to the network groups. It will just ask you which one do you want. I can add it here, or I'll show you another way to add it. You can upgrade it. So once you set the firmware server path for this one, actually, well, you can only set the firmware server path once. But if you want to upgrade the slave, and same thing applies for the router tomorrow, you can just select this one and say upgrade. Now, which path is it going to look for this? Which path is it going to use to go look for the firmware of this device is whatever you specify in the maintenance upgrade. It is whatever you put here. We can put firmware.grandstream.com. All right, so we know that firmware.grandstream.com, if we go to this link, sorry, don't know what I typed here. And we know we have all the firmwares there. So it says the HTTP upgrade is possible from firmware.grandstream.com for the router and the both access point models. So this path is valid. You have the official firmware for them. Now, once I enter this and then I save it, apply the changes, if I want to upgrade the master, which will be, or the controller, which is this master, or tomorrow you're going to see that you will have the same interface for the router. If I want to upgrade this device that I am on, I can just hit upgrade and it will upgrade itself. If I want to upgrade any slave or added access points in the router case, tomorrow we'll go to access points and I do this. I want to upgrade this guy and I just hit upgrade because I can't access the web interface of this guy. Look, if I get this IP and I try to access it, it's too late unless I reset it because I'm already adding it as a slave, so it belongs to the master. It's going to say something blocked. See, this AP is paired to the master, so there's no way I can add it. All right. What else? We can reboot it. We can add it to a network group. We can configure it. We can give it a name. We can call it added GWN 7600, frequency dual band or just one of them. We can change the mode for the network, the wireless mode. The channel, we can. It's actually automatically assigned. We don't need to touch all these. We better leave this task for the controller. Thankfully, it's doing the job for us. Radio power You can increase it, put it medium or high, and then the active special streams. You can just put auto. It will take care of this. Let me see if there is a band steering. Yeah, there's enabled band steering. You can read more about this feature. It's a great feature. So if it's configured, you know, the system will automatically adjust the two bands for dual band terminal access radio. So basically, to summarize this, so when you have clients with the old network cards that are using the 2.4 gig, so the access point, which is capable of transmitting at higher speeds using 5 gig, but you still have to respect the fact that you have old network cards or using the 2.4, then instead of slowing down, it's just going to adjust, the speed, and still the 5 gig users can take advantage of the high transmission speeds. Exit out of this. I think this is all you can do here. We can like we mentioned. Let's go back to the main network, the main SSID. First of all, let's check if it's shown here. It should show up. Where is it? Sure enough, it's right here. And just to let you know, this is, I'm getting only 1 bar. This is literally sitting in the technical support part of the building, which is literally the other end of the building. So that's why I'm getting only 1 bar. And this is the building has concrete walls. So I'm actually surprised I'm getting 1 bar. So let's add the other access point. Probably, or it's already added because I added it to network group 0. I can exclude it from this network group if I want it. But I decided to put both to form my my wireless access points. I have 1 wireless network, with 2 access points. I can create an additional SSIDs. I think you can go up to 16. I think Phil had mentioned this. Let's go ahead and create additional SSIDs. Create a new one. Network group name. We can just call it group 1. And enable VLANs if we want. We can enable VLAN, so it's on a separate VLAN. And then Wi-Fi, of course, we want to enable Wi-Fi and call it GWN webinar, which is today 6/13, and then guest. So this is not the main network. And remember, we want to you can hide this SSID. Just give it to certain people that you want or you trust. Keep the same encryption keys and stuff, encryption algorithms, I mean. And let's put password 1 for this one. This is a different. And then client isolations. Sure enough, it makes sense that I only give internet access to these guys connecting to my guest network. I don't want them to be able to ping me or to ping any devices in the main network because they are all in the same, using the same devices. And device membership, I can use only 1. Let's say this this particular MAC address, which is the main access point, the master, is sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and it's the one that most of the guests will connect to. Then I'll just keep this one, or I can add both of them if I want. So both of them are used for the main network, and both of them are used for the guest network. And just need to apply changes. Didn't I enable something? Network groups. Messed up something. Okay, enabled. Right. Okay. Disable the VLANs. All right. And here we are. We have two networks with the first one is in a completely different group membership. The other one, the main network, is group 0. Group 1 is for my guest network. I set up the client isolations, meaning the guests hopping on the guest network will not be able to join or to ping or to do anything to the main network. So it's a completely isolated network, even though it's actually it's originated, or it's the hardware that is the same one used for the main network. So as you can see, I made a lot of changes that require certain services on the system to be reloaded. So it will take about 30 to 40 seconds. And I think we covered everything. It's very basic and simple master-slave architecture. You basically, to summarize this, you just throw as many access points as you have in your network, and then you access only one of them. Like I showed you, we only accessed one AP, and then we were able to add, provision, upgrade. We showed we didn't upgrade. We could have upgraded, but I just didn't want to. It's going to take some time and make the master busy. But we showed you how to do that. We can add the slave access points to the main network. We can add them to a guest network. We can create additional Ss Ids, put them on a separate VLAN, put them on a separate network group, isolate the clients on that network from accessing the main network, and so on and so forth. And then tomorrow we will see the same logic, the same analogy. It's just that the master, there is no master. There is only a GWN router, and then it's going to look the same. The provisioning or the controller is going to look exactly the same. So you will be able to understand this on the router pretty easily, except that the router has actually more functionalities. Obviously, we will talk about VPNs, we'll talk about port forwarding, traffic rules and stuff like that, load balancing, and as well as failover on the WAN interfaces. Talked about the maintenance tab is literally, just give me 1 second, yeah. Trying to refresh. I don't know what's happening to my computer. All right, let's actually try to connect. If I remember correctly, this network is, it's actually, you notice that after I added the 3x3 router access point, the signal got a little stronger. I get 2 or 3 bars here. So let me try to connect. And password, next. And sure enough, I think I am connected. And notice that you have the SSID for the guest network as well. So we can do it. The test that you can do after you set this up, you can connect to the guest network from a different computer, and you see that the computer on the guest network can do actually everything, can connect to the internet, and it can get to any destination except the local host on the main network. That's all I remember. I should have uploaded that Splash, my customized Splash page, but it's saying connected, secured. So if I uploaded my Splash file, then it would ask me to agree to the terms and conditions and whatever that page has, and then it will allow me to access the internet. But the problem is, I enabled it, but I have not uploaded that Splash page. All right, that's all I have for the access point, Phil, and looking forward to see more people tomorrow for the router. It's going to be the same exact thing, except that we will access and these access points we will manage them and provision them from the router versus using one of the access points as the master. And that's all I have for the access point.
Awesome, thanks. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them over now. I've got a couple that we can get through in a matter of a minute or two here. And if anyone else has any final questions, shoot them over now. And we'll do a short little question and answer period right now. If you don't have any questions, we're pretty much wrapped up for today. All right, so first question I can answer, will the video be available? Yeah, we did record this, both the audio and the video. The best thing to do is, I believe we're going to send out an email on Thursday with a link to view this recording and the one from tomorrow. But the best thing to do is to go to our YouTube page and check it out there. I believe it's youtube.com/Grandstream Networks. You can find, that's where you'll be able to find this recording and all other recordings now or in the future or previous recordings. Doug is asking, on a multi-node network, can you change which access point is the master after one had been previously assigned to be the master?
No.
No? Okay, that's what I saw.
Yeah, and just to clarify something, I showed you that I enabled the captive portal, but I did not upload my customized Splash file, HTML file, so it loads this one by default, which is the built-in one. That's why you see this. I just need to say, accept terms and conditions and stuff, accept the license agreement, and you can move forward, okay? All right, that's all I have. Any other questions?
At the moment, that's all I have in terms of questions. I'll go back to one from earlier. Brian, maybe you know, maybe we have to look into this. Can I upgrade a 7610 from firmware version 10127 to the latest firmware?
Actually, you cannot.
Okay.
Open a ticket with support, and this is something, this guy Brian must have, Brian Page, he must be a beta tester and he has that firmware.
Probably, yeah.
That one was not released, so we have steps that we have taken to upgrade to the released firmware. So Brian, you can just shoot me an email. I'm sure you have me. We are Francisco, or open a ticket and ask for the steps to upgrade to the official release. There are a few intermediate firmware files that you need to load to step up to the latest.
Good to know. Since we're short on questions here, Thomas asked earlier, maybe you covered this, about guest network setup.
You only have, yeah, I did.
Okay, figured. Phil is now asking, good name by the way, Phil, how do you configure a 7610 to set a guest SSID that has a master to the 7000? Am I reading that correctly? Does that make sense?
How do you configure a 7610 to set a guest SSID that has mastered to 700?
I think it's supposed to be 7000 would be my guess.
Not sure what he meant by 700. Would you be kind enough to elaborate, Phil, what you meant by 700?
I guess that could be the
router?
The router, or the 600, the other access point maybe.
Well, it's going GWN.
There you go.
Well, first of all, that's going to be tomorrow, but it's the same as, you know, what you have on the 7000 is the equivalent of a master access point. So you're just going to create the same way I just did it. You just create a guest network, and then that's it. That guest network could be a 7610 or two 7610s or whatever. So there is no master tomorrow. The master is the router, and then you have other access points. Doesn't matter which model they are. So you can have a guest network of one access point, two access points, all of them, whatever you want. I just showed you. You just need to assign the MAC addresses to that guest network.
All right, thanks for Reed. That looks like that's it in terms of questions. I will hang around for a couple of more moments and answer any questions that anyone may not have been able to get in. We'll answer those through the chat over the next couple of minutes.
All right.
So for everybody, thanks for being with us for today's GWN Series Access Point Training webinar. As we mentioned, join us tomorrow. We're going to pop back on screen here. Join us tomorrow for the GWN 7000 router training webinar. You can get to that by going to grandstream.com/training center. Scroll down the page and look for the GWN Series training webinars. You can sign up for all training webinars there. Check our YouTube page probably tomorrow or Thursday for the recording of this and for the webinar tomorrow if you can't join us for that. And also, we'll probably get an email on Thursday with the recordings as well. So once again, thanks for being with us, and we hope to see you at another Grandstream webinar very soon. Have a great day. Take care. Let's turn the recording off. There's one question.